Hi everyone. First session of the day. It's a bit strange not being able to sort of hear yourself as well as through speakers, but we'll make this work. We have a very exciting session today with our partners at Cycleon. How to better manage your return operations, boost efficiency, and reduce waste. Very sexy title of You Had Me at Hello. Of course, post-purchase happiness, so specifically tracking returns and the physical infrastructure to support retailers post-purchase is the specialism of Cycleon. And unlike some other competitors in the market, they do have the scale, financial backing, and the physical infrastructure to support all retailers' needs. Today we have Jelle Schoenmaker, I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Correct.
As Managing Director of Cycleon, Jelle has established the brand as a global leader in e-commerce and retail product returns for major fashion apparel and electronics brands. Since 2007, he has grown Cycleon, a company operating basic services in 10 countries, to full aftermarket service provider in over 100. Niels is the head of product at Cycleon. Since 2016, he's worked at various roles, including implementation, solution design, of course, customer success, and he's now the product owner for the entire organization. So welcome to our esteemed panel. My name is Darko Artius. I'm CEO of True Altitude, a bespoke corporate finance house focused on emerging technology brands to support their shareholders with minimizing dilution and maximizing shareholder value. So I'll hand over to Jelle for a brief presentation, and after that we'll continue with comments and Q&A.
Thank you, Darko. I hope you all can hear me well, because yes, you can hear me well. That's great. So it will be a rapid fire debate, so we'll have open discussion, but also we'll say a bit about our company, but more importantly about topics. How do you want to deal with returns? So we want to talk about a challenge actually we're currently facing. I don't know who was traveling today internationally and had an easy flight getting in, or if you had delays. Of course, in the whole supply chain, we see a lot of issues, which of course also does have an impact on returns management. And that's really what we would like to focus with you and discuss today during this session. So a couple of words on us. So we're Cycleon, we're part of the Economy Group, a 1.2 billion company, 1.2 billion revenue in returns management, where we cover pretty much any step in the returns chain. So whether it's a commercial return, a service return, or an end-of-life return, with the Economy Group, we're covering it. We have a couple of divisions, and I'm leading one of the divisions focusing on product returns. You see a couple other brands out there, so there's a couple of brands now in the reuse division, which I'm responsible for covering returns on the global level. So I would like to talk about the challenges today in the market, the challenge we all see, right? Not only personal travel, but also business travel and logistics more specifically. We want to talk about the impact this has on returns, and also really would like to have your viewpoint on this. And we show two solutions, at least we see in the market, which really can, let's say, control and also optimize returns management. I will be partly presenting, and Niels will be partly presenting as well. So I guess I don't need to go through the headlines, right? Everybody sees what's happening. We have a pandemic, we have Brexit, we have other border issues or ships stuck at the Suez Canal. A lot of issues in the supply chain, not only leading to issues with shortages of goods, but also difficulties in warehousing, the capacity we have in warehousing. So this is not only, of course, outbound related, production related, this also really is related to returns. I guess I don't need to repeat what's being read in the newspapers. It can also be read by us, right? So this will take a long time before we really come down to a normal state of supply chain, and of course the impact it also has on returns management. So we'll have to deal with it a couple of years. I guess we need to approve it for the years to come, and till we get to a bit new normal. So what impact does it have on returns management? So with a lot of our clients, we see not necessarily that we're short of capacity, but the capacity is at the wrong place. So either the products are still in Asia, or we're overloaded with returns in the facilities. Items are stuck at carriers who are maybe overloaded with shipments. So we really have a capacity issue in this whole supply chain, including the returns. Of course, leading to speed and efficiency issues. For example, refund lead times to consumers, shipping items to store where they're piling up and there's no capacity to get items out of stores back to DCs. So there's a lot of speed efficiency, which does have an impact on returns management and more specifically on customer experience. So customer experience with slow refund lead times, wrong items, we're in the right places, of course only doesn't have an impact on returns management and the speed of the efficiency of that, but also really taking care you have the product for sale ready again to ship it to the next consumer. So also having return stock in multiple places around the world, of course, also means you don't have the product available to ship it to the next consumer. So that's multiple things we see coming together. And of course, with the shortage of people, the shortage of warehouse space, the shortage in logistics space, there's also a decreasing amount of cost going up. Whether it's a base cost of your logistics or carriers like UPS heavily increasing fuel surcharges, costs are going through the roof, including the salary cost. So these are elements that we see in the chain. So one of the things I would like to further discuss, let's say, what are options to overcome this? We have listed two. I will be talking about one. Niels will be about the other. But we also would like to know from the audience, and maybe Darko, you can help a bit with the mic, because I don't know technically how this works here. What kind of solutions you see as a retailer out there in the market, and share ideas with you so we can debate them. Later we'll talk about these, so you're not allowed to take those options as solutions, but happy to also understand your way of dealing with it. I see some familiar names from brands and retailers, so I definitely know there's some input. So Darko, can we get a mic?
There's a microphone there.
And
any
again, asking the audience, what are things you are doing to optimize returns management at the moment under the current challenges in the market?
Hi. Oh, that was too loud. Well, what we do, like we're selling underwear and socks. This is what we mostly sell right now. So if we have some customers who want to return, sometimes.
Could you repeat that again?
Yeah, sure. Sure, I'll do that. So we're specializing in selling underwear and socks. So our products are quite cheap. So if we have customers, or when we have customers who want to return, quite often we just say that they can keep that product. And this creates positive feeling for the customer and saves money for us. So.
And how do you control the consumer that they really wanted to return something and don't misuse the program?
Yeah, like if they want to return it, they can. But if they want to keep it, they can also just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's solutions we also see with other clients. So HP is one of our clients, and definitely for their cheaper version of the printers, the inkjet printers, they do the same thing. They just send you a new unit. You can keep the old unit, of course. They need to trust their client base that they, in a way, recycle their old unit in the right way and get a replacement unit.
We sometimes use it as a referral thing. So we say that they can give that product to a friend or to a family member or whatever, which creates like word of mouth effect, you know.
So the socks business, I can understand this kind of thing in underwear. So are there retailers with more expensive stuff who would be liking to implement such same solution? No retailers? Okay, let me then move to at least.
There's one lady in the back.
Oh, sorry.
We dare you to comment, by the way. It's a personal challenge.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Hi. So one of the brands, I'm Amy from Boohoo. So one of our brands is Karen Millen. Price points of £200 upwards dresses. And I guess one of the key things we're looking at is stopping the cycle of returns, because what we're finding is that product isn't absolutely perfect. It's getting into a bit of a loop where it's just coming back, goes out, comes back again. So that's something that we're, I guess, not fully sold, but looking more at our sort of salvage operation within the depot. How do we make sure that's perfect before it goes back out is one of the key things we've been doing.
And do you do that extremely close to the consumer? Let's say you would be selling in Spain. Would you do it immediately in Spain, or would you bring it back, I guess?
We bring it all the way back to UK, which is where our depots are at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, looking at potentially, we ship as far as Australia. So looking, do we do that potentially a bit closer to the market than bringing it back?
Yeah. No, I guess that's also one of the things, not necessarily focusing on the presentation of today. Doing activities locally, really as close as possible to the consumer, also is really driving costs down. And of course, if you don't ship goods right, costs go down. But of course, it does also really have a positive effect on sustainability, because you don't use and burn fuel. So them things. Happy to further talk about it.
No, I have a question for Boohoo actually. Do you segment first-time customers versus second-time customers in terms of approving returns? So maybe you have a bit more attrition with first-time customers, for example.
So when you say first and second time customers, in terms of when they're
First time customer versus a repeat customer. Are you seeing more returns?
right, not necessarily. We see more returns on customers that have a subscription, for example. So if they've got a £10 subscription with Boohoo, they'll just order and return whatever they want. That's kind of one of our biggest trends, but not really on new customers versus existing customers.
Understood. Thank you.
So let's share at least one of the thoughts we have around returns management, how you can ease, let's say, the current situation, really focusing on reducing returns. You would say, maybe as a returns company, that's the right thing to do. But we really, as a company, we want to manage the full cycle of returns. And a first cycle can be just a request of a return. It's not necessarily shipping a return. So there's a lot of data, especially if you use online portals. Also, if you have hard-copied forms about returns and returns reasons, you can learn a lot. And the data you really need to utilize to optimize your products, but also really optimize the way you want to sell. So one of the things you often see, serial buyers who buy things and actually want to have free shipping, they just drop another, let's say 10, let's say euro, pounds of value into the basket to have free shipping. But those goods typically really come back. So together with the marketing teams, you also really need to look at your data, the behavior of consumers. If, for example, free shipping above a specific price point doesn't lead to higher return rates. Of course, there's also a lot of things you can learn out of products. So one of our clients, we went into the warehouses. We took 10 pairs of 30 by 32 jeans, but none of them was really 30 by 32. So now with elastic jeans, right, you have, let's say, the cotton jeans, but you also have elastic jeans. After 2 months, typically those have different sizes. So again, huge return rates. So really sizing how you put pictures on your slides, how you actually price your products, how you deal with free shipping. It's really something that retailers need to discuss with their teams. It's not just logistics, returns logistics, it's much more. It's customer service, it's portfolio management, it's price points you put into the market. If you analyze all the data, really gather the data, and sometimes also, let's say, compare it with your colleagues out there in the market, you can optimize the returns. And like I said, it's not just a cost thing, it's also a sustainability thing. Take care, one-time right shipping, of course, not only is good for price points and your internal costs as a retailer, but it also really take care we burn less fuel and create a more sustainable world. So this is one of the topics to really focus and reduce your price points. Let's have a further talk about who is actually doing this already and what your experience is, before we move to Niels with the other solution we at least have in mind around, let's say, dealing with the current challenges in the supply chains. So any retailer heavily working on utilizing data, talking with marketing and sales teams around portfolios, the way you put products on websites, the terms and conditions you add to the sale of a product. Anybody to add anything? Mike is coming.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Max. I work for Mix, a custom furniture company. So we have an online configurator where you can kind of like design your own piece of furniture. And we use the returns or the return reasons to basically trigger all kind of like development processes inside. Maybe on the software side, on the configurator, to, for example, we had an issue where on like long sideboards we have support feet, because obviously it's not enough for like a 6-meter sideboard to have just 2 feet on the outside, and we wouldn't show them in the configurator, and then we would get frequent complaints about these feet being there and that they don't look nice, but they're necessary obviously, so we integrated those into the configurator even though it doesn't look nice there, but then it gives the customer an actual picture of what the sideboard would look like at the end. And I think one thing that we also do is, because it's modular, we manage to not just replace the whole item, but only specific parts of the item, right? So if a board is scratched, we just replace that one part. But because of the size of the items, I think one challenge that we have, especially with bigger, like sofas, for example, if we have a warehouse in Poland, we ship it to France, for example, then there's a little scratch there. It needs to be shipped back all the way to Poland to then get fixed and to be shipped back all the way to the customer. So we are looking at local companies that do the repairs on site, which is helpful. But still, it's at that size, it's still a big problem to deal with these returns.
Thank you. So adopting, let's say, your pictures you show to the consumers to really show the real thing, right? Just to avoid the return. Yeah, we also had a client. Actually, they were called it Petrol Blue. They were selling a Petrol Blue shirt. When you open the parcel and the package, actually it was black. The marketing thought, hey, Petrol Blue is a very cool name. Most likely people buy more of our shirts. But when consumers really got it at home and it was black, they returned it in big amounts. So really, what you tell the client, what you show the client, you need to be fair and open, because otherwise, indeed, it will stagger your return rates heavily and have an impact. Any other companies utilizing data and the insights on returns on, let's say, reducing the rate?
Hello, I'm Al. Oh, God, I can hear my own voice here. I'm Alex, and I work for Mouse. We sell ultra-protective premium phone cases, and we have a very generous lifetime warranty that allows for returns for effectively any reason whatsoever. So we are doing our best, looking at it from a product, from both a QC perspective and a product issue perspective, where we are trying to use data to go and track what sort of issues are causing the largest amount of returns, and provide that to the product team. But we are having struggles at the moment with, I guess, trying to categorize all the different issues and having our customer service team be able to understand our products and understand the issues that customers are having and correctly categorize them and track all that data and produce the reports. So I guess it's something that we're working on, but it's a struggle that we're having at the moment, of communication with our customer service team and understanding what constitutes enough to go and require a return, what doesn't. But yeah, that's just one of the struggles that we're having, I guess.
So I guess the definition of return reasons you're talking about. Can you hear me? Or
I can hear you now.
Yeah, the definition of return reasons, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Not having clean data to really compare and properly report on it, BI on it, and
Exactly.
anybody further remarks on that before we go to Niels with potential other solutions to optimize returns?
Any other brave souls? We don't bite. Winner.
Not Niels.
There's someone.
Oh.
Here I am. So I think for return reasons, I work at Coolblue. We have about 12,000, I think, right now, because in the end they just need to be product type specific. And what we found is the key is that you just need to have an owner for every return reason. So someone in the company needs to be responsible for the returns which you, in the end, end up having classified under that reason. Because it's all very nice to have we still have a manager, fewer returns. But honestly, he cannot do anything. It really needs to be the entire operation which reduces returns. So making sure you get your data fully correct, product type specific, easy to log, which I think was a very fair point, is key. And then making sure someone's responsible for doing something with it, because otherwise you have a lot of data and nothing happens.
So who's in the audience who doesn't know Coolblue? Retailer of electronics, and indeed, I guess, a huge amount of products, like mixers, TVs, and all different return reasons indeed, if they won't work right properly. It's a good point. I guess which also is a bit of introduction to actually our next topic, another way how to fix things. That's cooperation. It's not just logistics. And Niels, with that, I'll give the word to you.
Yeah, it is a really nice bridge to what I wanted to discuss. So, as a returns provider, we are usually approached by people working in logistics that have been tasked by, driving down return costs or driving down return rates or improving the returns. And what we typically have to say is basically first thing, sorry, but we need to also talk to you, our other colleagues, because returns is not just logistics. You have to look at it way more holistically, cross organization, cross department, and everything needs to work together to really, improve your returns. And that's what we're here today to talk to you about, and also very keen to hear how you're doing that within your own companies. Let me go to the next slide. So what does that mean, right? So everyone working together sounds very nice, but it's really effectively managing returns. So it's not just reducing returns or saving costs. It's managing your returns from start to finish. It's optimizing the costs. It's making sure that speed and consumer experience is improved. But all of these people usually sit in different areas of the company, and you need to work together to in the end reduce your returns or have a very nice return experience for your end user. This looks like chaos, and it's intended to be, because it is chaos. There's so many elements, there's so many parties involved, there's so many channels we're selling on nowadays. It's not just physical stores anymore, it's not just online anymore. We're combining, we're trying to create synergies, we're trying to meet consumer expectations, but how to connect all of this together and touch on every element that basically is expected of you in the industry right now. At the same time, linking this all together, but still keeping it smart, still making sure that it works in every market, because not every market is the same, and keeping it as simple as possible is very hard. And that is why we are introducing and actually launching this new solution, what we call omnichannel returns. Omnichannel returns is not just about logistics. It's about harmonizing all return streams. So whether it's coming from your brick and mortar stores, whether a product was bought online, whether it's sold via a Zalando platform, where consumers order something which is fulfilled by brand A, bought on Zalando, and a secondary product is in the same order fulfilled from brand B. The consumer doesn't care. They just want to return. And they want to return it in one box, and they want a refund as soon as possible. All of this is a challenge, but we are here to help. And what we basically did, so I mean, that previous slide looked nice, but it's a bit more complex, right? There are a lot of parties involved here. And what we think is that the future really is in the connectivity. So linking together all the different parties in each little part of the journey of your customers, whether they are retailers or whether they are end consumers. Linking them together, linking the sales channels together, so marketplace sales, retail sales, e-commerce sales, linking all the physical channels together. So let the consumer drop off with a postal service, but also offer them a pickup at their house if that's more convenient to them. Usually depends per market, or have them or route them to your nearest brick and mortar store where they can just drop off that e-commerce bought product and have it go back with the B2B flow, for example. Offer choice, offer flexibility, and offer connectivity, and that is what we're here to offer. If you want to know more about this, you can talk to us at our booth, but we're also here to really talk to you about is if this is something that you recognize, if you are having the same struggles within your own organization, and if there are any ideas that popped up while I was talking.
I've got maybe a slightly contentious comment or question. There's a lot of stuff on that roadmap. There's a lot of integrations that you have to manage. So from a product perspective, how are you tackling, prioritizing which partners you're actually going to be integrating with?
Yeah, so we have built this platform where we have integrated local carriers, the local heroes in each market, and we've done that thoroughly. So we really have identified the need in each market. What is really the local hero that speaks to the consumer, but also looked at the minimum amount of, for example, the more pallet carriers that really bring the bulky stuff back, and we have really looked at in the physical partner kind of area. We really looked at the local heroes to help us out there. Then you have lots of different parties. We made sure that our IT systems are system agnostic, so that it's basically a plug and play to any system. We don't really mind what system it is, and we're currently in our internal roadmaps we're building towards having more plugins available to the more common ERP, CRM, order management systems.
With enough finance and manpower, anything is possible. Just a point around specific pain points around your smart returns management approach. So when you're putting the bubbles together, in terms of, again, not prioritizing product roadmap so much, but in terms of customer pain, and we'll get to the question in just 1 second. Which areas do you see that retailers are feeling the most pain in terms of managing returns in an omnichannel perspective?
I think there's still a huge difference between the B2C channel and the B2B channel. I think B2C has been kind of the show pony is maybe the wrong word, but a lot of focus has been going into in the e-commerce part. And keep in mind that consumers are also as a private person, retailers are also consumers, and they see on the other side of things that they see that as a consumer they get their refund back in 3 days. But as a retailer, they have to wait a couple months on their credit. So I think brands are really struggling in meeting market demands because we have all been kind of getting used to all of these super fast delivery services, super fast, convenient returns options. But now to really have it harmonized across every channel, I think that's the real challenge.
Understood. Without further interruption, there was a very keen question in the back, so maybe we get the microphone over to the gentleman.
Thank you. Alex Blake from Ted Baker UK. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, because it's a very complex infrastructure, and some businesses are more mature in certain areas than others.
Yep.
So if we were to engage with you, how do we work with you to understand whether we've got that framework to actually make it successful, and whether we can plug those gaps and how you can do that? Because that's a lot of time to invest to actually find out that we might not be able to deliver what you need to deliver that return solution.
Yeah.
So how do you work that gap analysis for a business like ourselves so that we can make that solution potentially successful and don't invest a lot of effort into it and really find that we've got a lot more work to do on our side?
Yeah, so we would like to see the brands we work with as really partners, and we usually build a partnership together. So what we tend to do is we start with a more simpler flow, the e-commerce flow. We go live in a couple countries, and from there we grow together. And that is really our approach to all implementations. And when you run into troubles on the other side, let's say on the B2B side, we can start and initiate talks about that. And the nice thing is, once you're integrated, we can also leverage that for the other streams that we can manage for you. The nice thing is that in the end, the consumer, whether it's a consumer return or whether it's a Zalando return or whether it's a retail return, they all come back to a Cycleon hub in the local country, and then we consolidate it there for you, and we deliver it back to you in a manageable way, completely, identifying each and every product that's in that shipment. So you'll just be getting our returns back, and suddenly also your B2B volume, for example, is in there. So that's how we keep it manageable and do it step by step.
So there's a certain level of investment in regards to investing into your solution to see if it works for us, potentially.
Well, typically it's an API integration that we do to get your returns data in, and from there we offer the full-fledged suite that you can cherry pick, so it's modular. So the initial investment is the API connection, but after that you're good to go to use or not use the other products that we offer.
Thank you.
Before we move on, any other questions from the audience? Any brave souls?
Yeah.
There's a question there.
So before we move there, maybe one thing to add to Niels. So what you often see returns management, let's say the first mile, getting the units back, crediting hopefully the consumers on time. That typically is what's being done at consumers and also at the retailers. But what you do see, especially in peak times, that there's overload of returns coming in. There's not enough space, there's not enough capacity to handle returns. Let's say the items often just end up in the corner of the facility, collecting dust. And maybe if the peak is over, and if you're lucky, maybe in the summertime time frame, brands start looking at that. And that's also a huge cost if you look at, for example, depreciation of items. Yeah, you don't want to sell flip-flops in the winter, right? So especially for brands like Havaianas, which are for clients of ours, it's really important to immediately move the products back into the market to take care they don't depreciate, they don't add up somewhere in a facility, and it's typically an afterthought returns, also in facilities, because all the focus is on outbound and shipping out orders. So that's also part of the integration. Really take care that with smart tools, you make decisions to really move products immediately into the supply chain again.
That is, I mean, just observing, I guess, well, you guys versus the competition is one big advantage you do have is you have physical presence in a lot of the major markets, so you can quickly spin up options for customers to set up physical infrastructure to accommodate for the local returns and then transport them internationally.
Yeah.
That is a unique selling point, yeah.
Yeah, the supply chain, there's continuous peak, right? So in the old days you had the Christmas peak, but if you now look at the volumes, there's all kind of peaks through the year. And you need to deal with it. And you need to refund the clients on time, and you need to put the products back on stock when as quick as you can. But it's
post-COVID revenge spending. A lot of angry customers out there getting their credit cards out. We have a question from the gentleman
there. I work for a telecommunication company, so we have immediate returns, but we already have long-term returns. For example, when the service is finished and the customer return the equipment. And we are facing now a big problem because our data is not the best data. And I would like to ask you if you have any experience in manage this, because what we are facing is one, we have problems with the supply of the new equipment because of all the chipset problem. And we have poor information in our database. So, do you have any recommendation, or do you have experience in manage that?
So, do you refer to the kind of replacement program where consumer gets a swap unit and returning the used unit, the older unit? Is that what you refer to?
Yes. You know, if you have internet services, then you have the modem or the router or whatever. Then when the service is finished, you have the option. If, for example, it is in Europe is easy because here you don't make all the refurbishment of the equipment because it's more expensive. The service, the refurbishment than the new equipment, but because of the chipset problem, then we are now trying to recuperate everything in order to have more inventory.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we are running end of use or replacement returns programs, including repair and refurbishment kind of programs, either back to the consumer or back to stock. So you saw Sony, that's actually Sony PlayStation. We manage all Sony PlayStations in Europe. Whether they come back from a consumer or a store, it's done via us. So that also includes activities like what you say, but it's also integrated with repair partners in Europe out there. So maybe we're at booth E60, so maybe have a further chat about it. So answer is yes.
Perfect. Thanks.
Very good. Interesting that a shortage of semiconductors is driving sustainable behavior from telecommunications. That's brilliant. Any other brave souls before we move on? Comments, questions, issues, concerns, or otherwise? So back to localization. So one of the things that we've touched on a few times is the increasingly international nature of digital commerce, and the benefit that I guess a Cycleon customer has, and the ability to spin up local logistics and fulfillment for returns very, very quickly. Each market's a bit different, and you've made some observations in different white papers, and obviously within your own customer base, how different markets consume returns. Is there any comments you want to make around Europe or around the world?
Yeah, so we did some cases with consumers, some surveys, both in COVID and after COVID. What you see typically, consumers go back to normal behavior. US, typically brick and mortar based business, of course, also e-commerce is huge in the US, right? Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of consumers actually are going back to stores. And it can be the retail store, it can be the brand store, it's take the car, drive to the mall. It's still there. Declining though, also in the US. but much more than here in Europe. In Europe, you see a lot, also big difference between the countries. Where, for example, Italy is much more focused on pickup of consumers at the houses of the consumers. Likewise, like Spain, pretty much. Well, here in Germany and the Netherlands, people like drop off a lot. Of course, in the Netherlands, people like to take the bike ride, talking about sustainability. So bike and walk to the drop-off point. In France, people still like drop-offs, but they take the car. So there's a huge difference in consumer behavior, but also the networks you need to give to the consumers in the local countries. And it's also evolving through time, right? So like I said, right, in the US at the moment, a pretty much brick and mortar focused store, also in returns management, also there with more drop-off points. Of course, also consumer will be going more to drop-off points and pickup services. So it's also not a static situation out there, and changing through time. But definitely changes in the behavior. Also the number of returns. Traditionally, Germany is high compared to other countries out there. Also the return reasons in Germany are very different. Although the Germans are very nice and clean. So if a German returns something, it's clean and nice. Compared to the Dutch, and in the UK, which is a totally different ball game. So a lot of changes. And you need to give those services to the client, right? Really based on the local need, or maybe even the personal preference of a single consumer that you have, because you want to retain your single consumer, and you want to retain many single consumers. That's your customer base. So although there's the local preferences, you still need to be able to offer multiple options to local consumers.
Every market returns are slightly different, but equal in every market returns are very, very important for customer retention.
Yeah, so in any country, if you don't credit or refund quick enough, you'll have a complaining client, and that really has a huge impact on the retention of the consumer. So indeed, refund lead time is key, and that's in any market, right? Especially nowadays that we have less money in our pockets, right? Because we're spending it on fuel. Yeah. It's more critical. And we also do see it at the moment with clients that are in financial troubles, especially the ones who really are in the lower priced area. That you can all read it in the newspaper, right? Administration here or profit warnings there. So we'll be in a challenging market for the years to come, till it eases out. Which again, of course, it's also good that you then have the options to deal with that as a provider and have discussions with the retailers. But
interesting. Thank you. Any comments on differing experiences in different markets regarding returns or customer expectations? We'll switch to omnichannel and the bridge between, a big box retailer having invested in e-com, and I'm still flabbergasted that, sort of 10 years, 15 years down the line, operations are still run separately. And I mentioned revenge spending before. My wife is a revenge spender. She's a rampant consumer of e-commerce, but sometimes she likes to return an item in store, and that can prove to be really, really painful. We kind of discussed this a little bit earlier today, but you found some unique solution sets to being able to sort of give the product identity, whether it's digital or physical, and sort of bridge the gap. Do you want to just comment a little bit about how I can go back to my wife and say, look, the solution's coming and there's no more pain?
Yeah, so I'll take this one. So it's more about usually the product when it's ordered via e-commerce, it's of the property of a different business entity usually. So stocks don't mix. They all have different identifiers here and there. So what we tend to do is, and this is something that we ask the retailers or our clients to do, is to send us the original order information. Then we assign a unique Cycleon ID to each and every item in our network. And there we can always split out the e-commerce bought product from the retail sold product. It then doesn't matter anymore if a consumer brings it back to the physical store, and we just move it to our regional hub, and there we sort it out. We say, okay, this has to go to the e-commerce distribution center, and this one has to go to the retail distribution center. So that's how we maintain the original link to where the product came from, but the consumer doesn't notice anymore.
Fantastic. Any retailers in the room tackling that sort of physical digital bridge? Anything unique to comment on? Because one of the big challenges is integrating customer comms so that a customer knows once they've dropped a return off in a store that a refund's actually being processed and they're being actively communicated with. So how does Cycleon address the sort of upstream communications with customers to let them know and sort of reduce the anxiety that they're actually getting their money back?
Yeah, so we, as I said before, we have regional hubs in each country, and whether it doesn't matter the channel or where it comes from, we bring it back there, and we open the packages and we validate the items that are inside or the products that are inside. Once they're there, we can trigger a systematic message to you guys that the product is returned from this order and it's in good condition and it is ready to be refunded. And with the marketplace pressure these days on brands to do this within a couple of days, that's also what we offer. So in a couple of days' time, if the consumer indeed returned what they said they would return and the condition of it, and that it's ready for refund.
Fantastic. I think we've been told off. We're out of time. It's been such a well attended session. I'd like to thank the speakers. And I guess the key message being drawn out of this is, physical logistics of returns has sort of moved on a bit. It's now about connectivity. So giving a product identity through various channel streams in the business, being able to link the order to the ERP, linking finance and customer communications using a wonderful Cycleon solution. Thank you very much for your time today. Wish you all the best for the rest of the event.